But persistent rumors claim that a few of these giant carnivorous lizards still lurk in remote stretches of the Australian outback. That a 6-meter lizard is still out there today. Fortunately for us.
If Megalania were still around today, there would be a lot of dead people out there. Livestock would be in peril. The largest living varanid lizard today, Komodo dragons, eat goats. Those are small compared to Megalania. And so I would imagine something as big as Megalania would be taking down cattle.
During the Ice Age, this reptile was the apex predator in a land of giant mammals. So what was on the menu? On this isolated continent, marsupials had become the dominant mammals, and many of them were supersized, much larger than the pouched animals we know today. The biggest of the lot was Diprotodon. This 2,700-kilogram herbivore was like a monster wombat the size of a rhino, and its size was its best defense. And just like today, Australia was teeming with kangaroos. The only difference is the giant short-faced kangaroos weighed 225 kilograms and stood over 2 meters tall. They were able to grab foliage 3 meters off the ground, beyond the reach of other animals. This king-size skippy was a prime prey object, but it wasn't an easy target.
Giant kangaroo isn't just meat on 4 legs. It would have been a formidable foe for any predator to attack.
These giant kangaroos were the mixed martial arts fighters of the outback. Like their modern counterparts, these extinct giants defended themselves by kicking with their powerful hind legs. They could disembowel an attacker using the claws on their feet.
This is the thigh bone of a modern grass-eating kangaroo. It's an animal that might have weighed in the order of 100 to 120 pounds. We can see when we compare that with the thigh bone of the giant kangaroo, just what a marked difference there is.
To bring down one of these giant critters, Megalania would have to lie in wait until it got close enough to ambush it. Then the huge lizard would rush forward, but the attack would bring it into range of the kangaroo's powerful back legs.
These giant kangaroos, they're not just going to shrink away or lie down and die. They're going to try and defend themselves. Like modern kangaroos, the animal will probably prop back on its tail, lashed out with those hind legs.
Megalania is far too sturdy to be killed by a kick, but the giant kangaroo only needs to stun the lizard to give itself time to escape. However, the monster-roo is slow to accelerate, making it extremely vulnerable until it gets up to speed.
Well, my money would definitely be on Megalania.
And although Megalania was big and bulky, it may not have been as slow as it looked. Modern monitor lizards are specially adapted as chase predators. They have a special technique that enables them to pump more air into their bodies while running. They expand their throats to draw in air, then contract it to force the air into their lungs. This natural supercharger pumps more oxygen into the monitor lizard's system, allowing it to sustain high speeds over long distances.
And what that means is that if they can see a prey item, they can run it down.
Megalania may well have shared this ability to accelerate quickly and keep going. All it needed was to get close enough to grab the tail of its prey.
The tail is integral to a kangaroo's movements, and if that were bitten by Megalania, it would be in a lot of trouble.
It would try and hop away, bleed to death, Megalania would still have its meal.
Even with all its strength, the giant kangaroo is no match for Megalania. But Megalania didn't have this bounty all to itself. There were other predators on the continent. And the most deadly was a bizarre creature called Thylacryleo carnifex, a marsupial lion. Despite its name, it was not a lion or even part of the cat family. This beast was actually a distant cousin to wombats and koalas, but definitely not cute and cuddly. Imagine an animal half the size of a tiger with the aggressive personality of a cornered possum.
The marsupial lion was Australia's largest mammalian predator, with slashing claws and grasping hands and blade-like teeth.
Fossil remains of the marsupial lion and its prey have been found all over the continent. But one place in southern Australia has become the El Dorado of Pleistocene epoch bones. Over the course of 500,000 years, thousands of animals fell into a labyrinth of underground caverns through sinkholes. Few of them ever got out. Known today as the Narrow Court Caves, this network of chambers is home to some of the richest fossil deposits on Earth, including the remains of several marsupial lions. Paleontologists, such as Dr. Liz Reed, have made some surprising discoveries about the special adaptations that made this unique animal such a deadly predator.
This is a 200,000-year-old fossil of the marsupial lion's hand, and it has special features that allow it to be a very effective predator. Large claws that it can use to slash and pierce prey, and an opposable thumb which allowed it to grasp and hold on with those massive claws.
The marsupial lion had unusually flexible forelimbs compared to other predators.
The bones of the forelimb of the marsupial lion reflect its strength and flexibility. If we look at the elbow, you can see a large range of movement in the joint, big wide joint, wide bones, lots of power. And unlike a lot of other animals, including predators that are restricted to this kind of movement, the marsupial lion could reach in and grab prey and hold it to its body, allowing the mouth to then deliver the killing blow.
500,000 years after they were made, the marsupial lion's tooth marks can be seen on the fossilized skeleton of one of its victims.
On this bone, you can actually see the slice marks produced by this big blade tooth of the marsupial lion. So as it's devouring its prey, it works at where the muscle attaches to the bone and slices it off so it can eat the flesh.
The marsupial lion was not all that big, about 1.5 meters long and less than 160 kilograms. But it was an agile and crafty animal, the tactical killer of its time. Its sharp claws made it an excellent tree climber. It made up for its lack of size by launching attacks from the air, taking its prey by surprise. A tactic which has given it the nickname Drop Cat.
The marsupial lion was absolutely built to get in and close up and personal with big, dangerous animals and fight those animals and wrestle those animals to the ground.
And the beast had a phenomenally strong bite.
Pound for pound, it had the most powerful bite force of any animal that's ever lived.
This is the skull of the marsupial lion, and basically it's got the most unusual teeth of any mammalian carnivore. And they would have worked in unison to clamp around the windpipe of its prey, something like this.
The front incisor teeth were used for holding or potentially suffocating the prey, and then these large blade-like premolar teeth were used to slice off pieces of flesh.
All of these tools combined to make the marsupial lion a lethal opponent, the only creature able to challenge Megalania. These predators would have generally avoided each other, but they hunted the same prey, and their world was changing.
The Pleistocene itself was a tough time. It was a time that was dominated by what we call glacial and interglacial cycles, culminating in the last glacial cycle, or the last ice age, that was drier, and we had more super droughts than any other time previously.
As Australia became more arid and food more scarce, it's possible that the monster mammal and giant reptile would find themselves competing for prey.
So we can imagine a scenario where Megalania has come into the marsupial lion's territory, it's looking down, it sees the giant lizard and perceives it as a threat, and then attacks by leaping down onto the lizard. Once the marsupial lion was down on top of the lizard, it would probably go for the neck. You would not want to take your eyes off the head of Megalania.
It would be a brutal battle between two gladiators. Even Megalania would be vulnerable to the lion's death grip on its throat, but it had other ways to defend itself.
But Megalania had another weapon. It had a flicking tail, so the marsupial lion would have to watch out because a flick from that tail could cause a serious injury.
If I was a betting person, I'd probably put my money on Megalania. All Megalania has to do is get a bite in, and the marsupial lion's in serious trouble. The marsupial lion, as powerful it was and as effective predator as it was really outclassed by the size and maneuverability of Megalania.
Megalania's sheer size would ultimately win the day. But in Ice Age Australia, even the prey animals, such as the mighty Diprotodon, were dangerous. How could a lizard, even a giant lizard, tackle a behemoth like this? Some scientists believe that the giant ripper had a secret weapon. Australia today is renowned for its cute, quirky, and mostly small